Horror games are awful, most of the time, and it can be hard to tell the good from the bad from the even worse. So I've taken it upon myself to search through Steam new releases to separate the terrors from the turds. My name is Filtzi, and you should probably lock your windows tonight.
Oh, dude, that was not even fantasy, that's just an alien, Pim.
Unknown Presence is a horror game? That's a genuine question. It definitely describes itself as a horror game multiple times in the Steam description, but you know what, I'll just get into it and you can decide. So after the most generic title screen in the world, you wake up in a house and immediately the controls feel weird. Something about the camera movement, it feels like I'm moving a third-person camera in this first-person game. And with some very basic tutorial, we head out into the forest to our campsite. But before that, the game has to load. And this game must have been developed by Bethesda because the loading screen took 2 full minutes and almost crashed to desktop. We're off to a good start. I arrive to the forest and I'm met by instant lag. Jesus Christ. What in this game is so hard to run? My PC can comfortably run Cyberpunk and you're telling me your 11GB horror game is too much for it? Is this using my PC to mine crypto or something? And when I try and lower the graphics, the game froze again. But at least now it's not lagging. I arrive at the campsite and I guess my friends are missing, but you know, it's been a long 12 minutes since I woke up, so it's nap time, and I sleep through the entire day. I wake up, see a UFO, and oh my god, what is this compass? You know how in Skyrim, icons only appear on the compass when you're close enough? Well, this game decided it's too good for that, and shows you every single location at once. Don't you think that's a little bit overwhelming? To immediately give me choice paralysis by showing me everything at once? And there's no way to gauge distance. So this question mark could be 10 feet away or the other side of the map, and I've just got to live with that. So this game is clearly going for a more classic open world style. It gives you an objective, find your friends, but no direction, instead letting you explore at your own pace and find new things. But here's the issue. A game like this needs to give you motivation to explore, seeing something cool in the distance and wondering what it could be. And all I can see is trees and a million question marks. Other than the very basic walk around and press E to interact, this game has one gameplay mechanic: finding rocks and throwing them. You can only hold around 6, but that's probably for the best because you can rapid fire them all in a second. Also, there's no visual distinction between rocks you can pick up and ones you can't. Sometimes you just get a button prompt to take them. And that's really annoying because I feel naked without my rock collection. I come across my first location, a small village. I'm met with a man frozen in stone, a grim sign of the unnatural horrors that have occurred here. That's the funniest thing I've ever seen. Other than frozen dudes, there's some notes here recounting how they found a weird skull that fell from the sky, believing it to be an angel. With the positioning of all the frozen figures, it's genuinely an interesting idea. Too bad I was distracted by throwing rocks at all of them. I go to find something new and Christ, this game is slow. Now to be completely honest, the game was slower than it should be because I spent half the game crouched without realizing it. But even after I managed to stand up, you move at a snail's pace compared to how spread out everything is. But eventually, I arrive at a cave, and it's locked. Rocks don't work. Guess I need a key, so I go look somewhere else. This is the game's biggest problem. Excluding that very first location I found, everywhere I go it's completely empty. No items, no lore, nothing to see. It got to a point where I was following random wildlife in hopes that something would happen. Why would someone do this? Make a game that's so vast and so empty, with this many locations and nothing in them? Is this some avant-garde art piece? Is this an experiment on how long a single man can go without anything happening? A recruitment tool for some underground cult? The worst part is that when stuff actually does happen, it's cool. You see creepy floating lights in the sky that come down to check you out. I get knocked out and wake up in a pile of bodies as a sacrifice to the aliens, which I barely mention because they're barely present. Past the glowing orbs and a blatant UFO from the start, all I saw was some Polaroids of generic grey aliens that were just stolen off Google. Look, the dev seems like a nice guy. In the Steam reviews, someone asked for a quality of life feature and he added it for them the next day. But this game is unfinished, and it's not listed as early access, and it cost £8.50. I'm reviewing this as a product being sold for money, and for the money, it's fucking awful. Unknown Presence gets an I'm not mad, I'm disappointed out of 10. If you've enjoyed the video so far, please consider liking and subscribing.
Yo.
Hello, shorty. What are you doing?
The Cooking Class, First Course, is a sequel to another game called The Cooking Class. And before I review anything, this game is part of an alternate reality game, or ARG, which is a genre that uses the real world as a platform to tell a multimedia story. But I am reviewing this as a game, a product being sold for money which it is. I can't include any other media into that because that isn't the product you're buying. So the game has a really nice art style. Typical low-res, low-poly graphics, but with a touch of realism in places, like a real video on the TV. It has this really good visual mood and lighting. Unfortunately, these visuals are ruined by a camera that is an order of magnitude more sensitive than it should be. And there's no options menu to change it, so I just had to live with the fact that my character is constantly gyrating her head. You play as Jessica, the investigator of a case for some missing young girls in the area, and you get informed that the person you interviewed most recently has died of an overdose, which you find suspicious. But mostly you just do household chores here, reading a creepy book, watching what appears to be a snuff film and enjoying it, making dinner for your boyfriend who's going to be home late, and then eating a sandwich for yourself for some reason. Eat the spaghetti, man! This part of the game is fine in concept, but it's plagued with frustration. All the chores are done in a predetermined order and there's no way to look back at the previous dialogue, so if what you're doing slips your mind for a second, you have to just wander around until a button prompt shows up. Speaking of button prompts, annoyingly all the interactable objects require you to be standing on specific spots to interact, meaning a lot of dancing around light switches. Also, when you're carrying large objects, it covers your entire screen. So this delivery guy comes to your door and gives you an urgent package with some cooking books by Lee DuPont, the mother of your main suspect, Thomas DuPont, as well as a USB stick and a note telling you to save yourself. The USB stick contains falsified documents about how the guy who died was a druggie, as well as some info on Thomas. So you decide to go to their place and accuse them. Very direct, skipping a lot of steps as the detective. You get a text to go to the shed out back, but for a game that advertises that it's about making choices, it's weird that this isn't a choice, because I would absolutely not go to that shed after this creepy ass text. Here you find another note, telling you it's from Thomas's sister, and she tells you that Thomas is now inside your house. Tells you not to go to the police as they're in his pockets and to check your boyfriend's PC, which she tells you the password to. And we see that yes, someone is in the house. And we're given the first choice of the game. Get in the car and go to the police, or go check out the PC. Now, having read a letter that just told me cops are bad, I go to the PC. This game is all about the choices and not about moment-to-moment gameplay, so you can't randomly get killed. So you're completely safe walking around despite the fact there's a man in your house. The PC tells me that my boyfriend and Thomas were in cahoots, saying Thomas wanted me to be alone so he could talk to me, and telling me there's a safe code underneath a creepy mask decoration. So I go look at it, and the game softlocks. I can't move. I had to restart here, and since this game doesn't save in any way, it took me 10 minutes of doing chores to get back to this point. Getting into the safe gives me the key to my archive, where I find the evidence I keep in my house for some reason. I hear a phone ringing. I'm given the choice to investigate. As I look, I find out it's my boyfriend's, and I see outside that someone's car is stopping. I go to hide, and suddenly... This scare got me because I was so in the zone that I just wasn't expecting anything to happen. I leave the room and I find who I assume to be Thomas waiting for me outside. And he gets me. Game over. I like the story quite a lot. Very classic slasher film. I like the red herring and thinking our boyfriend was against us, when instead it was someone using his phone and computer. I really love the fact you can see the shadows of people sneaking around your house in certain moments of the game, but a lot of its suspense is taken away with the lack of any ambient sound. Most of this game is in complete silence, which makes it feel empty and boring. I went back to try the other choice of the two choices, both taking the minimum 10 minutes to get to, and they both just boil down to go to your car, get a death screen. I don't know if I can recommend this game. I really like its story and visuals, but it's a technical nightmare that's constantly trying to force me out of any immersion I experience. This is the kind of game that has its merits, but probably would have worked better in another medium. The cooking class gets a ghost face out of 10.
Relax. I just want to take some pictures.
Krypta FM is a game centered around a fictional radio broadcast about cryptid hunting. The game is separated into days, with each day beginning by listening to the broadcast. The voice acting here isn't in English, but from my perspective it sounds pretty good. The first broadcast gives you some basic advice on cryptid hunting, and then tells you about one that's been spotted in your area. You then get a tutorial task of going into your neighbour's backyard, taking a photo of a dead goat, and uploading it to the forum. A lot of this game centers around this forum, and I love it. It feels like a perfect recreation of a mid-2000 forum with a close-knit community. Each poster has characteristics we've all seen online. We have an old guy who doesn't understand the website, a furry who's really into mysticism, a 12-year-old attempting to troll, a guy who acts edgy, a conspiracy theorist who wraps everything back to aliens and paranormal activity, and a boring moderator who hates fun. There's always got to be the fun-hating moderator. The main gameplay revolves around taking pictures of things requested by the forum members. The old guy asks for historical landmarks, the furry sends you places with satanic etchings all over the walls, and the 12-year-old sends you on a bunch of nothing quests and accuses you of being scared all the time. Despite the map being relatively big, I had no trouble finding any of these locations because instead of a compass with a billion question marks, the game gives you a cute little hand-drawn map with all the important points marked out in one way or another. The map doesn't show your location, so it still takes some navigation, but I've never really felt lost. There's a moment of tension before taking photos, because pulling out the camera means not having a flashlight. I was expected to see something horrible when the camera flashed, but honestly the game is a little bit uneventful. Any fear I felt was purely because my mind was playing tricks on me in the isolation. On the fourth day, the host of the radio show begins to say he solved the mystery of the cryptid, but just before he tells you, the power cuts out to the whole town, so you need to go out to a breaker to fix it. Unfortunately, at this moment, your flashlight also runs out. Walking through the pitch black, I was terrified. This is what the game was building up to. I turn on the lights. I go back home. I'm safe. Checking the forum again, it turns out this cryptid was just a stray dog. There was nothing to be scared of. The game's an interesting little experience about your mind playing tricks on you and making you scared of nothing. I'd recommend it not as a horror game, but as just a charming little experience. Krypta FM gets a furry out of 10. So those are our games for the week. I really don't plan these videos out very much before I start picking the games. I just pick games at random. So it was weird this week that everything worked out to be some kind of mystery thing. Like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you enjoyed the video, or hell, if you didn't enjoy the video, tell me what you didn't like. I could use the advice. Thank you. See ya.